Welcome to the Museum of Discovery and Science. This place is awesome.
It is. I love the Highlands Museum.
I'm Dr. Discoveries.
And this is Ranger Rebecca.
Ranger Rebecca, guess what? We are going to talk reptiles, but we're going to talk specifically about what I consider a mean reptile. He's like a dinosaur.
What kind of reptile are we talking about?
The Savannah monitor.
Wow.
So we're going to have a lot of fun. I hope not to be bitten because they do have very powerful jaws, okay? If I am bitten, we'll go to a commercial. Let's see our audience today. Let's have you come up and introduce yourself. Come on up here. Come on up.
Say your name?
Tell everybody who you are. All right.
All right.
Ellie.
Good job, Ellie.
Colton. Awesome.
Lily. Call me Lily after.
Call me Lily.
Lily.
Good job, Lily.
Jacob.
Jacob.
Sydney.
Sydney. And Aniston.
Thank
you
you
guys,
for
thank you for
coming.
coming. Let's give yourselves a round of applause. Now, when we come back, we are going to talk about Savannah monitors.
Welcome to the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center.
Come on, let's go see what's inside. The Highlands Museum and Discovery Center is not only full of tons of history, but it's also a lot of fun.
Here's a sneak peek of Country Music Heritage Hall, which features Highway 23 entertainers and many local bluegrass artists. In the military exhibit located on the mezzanine level at the museum is the proposed replica of the Boyd County Honor Roll Memorial Wall.
Also in the military exhibit is one of the Highlands' most famous artifacts. It is Hitler's bedside phone, and yes, it is real.
Are you looking for the perfect venue for your next event?
Whether you have 50 people or up to 500,
Ashland's largest conference center has you covered. Adults and children of all ages enjoy our Discovery Center located in the lowest level of the Highlands Museum. To the Highlands Museum!
Aye, aye, Captain.
I'm Ranger Rebecca, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about Heritage Farm Museum and Village in Huntington, West Virginia. So here we are in the Heritage Farm Petting Zoo, and I'm with Thunder. We have all kinds of fun animals for your kids to be able to have an up-close interaction with. We are currently in the General Store Museum, and this is to show you what going to Walmart would have been like back in the 1800s. Our Transportation Museum has everything from some original Model Ts to a lot of things about trains, and 1908 electric truck, and more. It's really fun to come see how progress started with how we go from here to here. So it's really an interesting feel. It throws you back in time. If you haven't been here before, we hope you come out. There's lots of great things to do.
Rebecca, monitors are so awesome. They're powerful creatures. They're one of the largest lizards in the world. But the thing is, they are not the largest. The Komodo dragon is probably the biggest lizard I've ever seen.
Well, Komodo dragons, Savannah monitors, lizards, they are all reptiles. Does anybody in our audience know what a reptile is?
Yeah, me too.
Oh, what's a reptile, Aiden?
Animal.
An animal, you're right. Colton?
Animal, well, it's an animal that has scales.
An animal that has scales, even closer. Does anybody know why the animal has scales?
It's to protect it from its habitat, like the desert.
True, yeah. So these Savannah monitors, they do live in the deserts. They live in the deserts and savannas of Africa. He's hissing at him right now.
Yeah, he's angry because he don't like to be handled that much. But guess what? He's going to be handled, and we're going to talk about him. Look at that tongue. It's almost like a snake's tongue.
Yeah, so again, snakes are reptiles, and reptiles are animals that are cold-blooded. So cold-blooded means they have to be in the sun in order to be warm, unlike us that we can be warm without having to be in the sun. And those scales act kind of as solar panels to help bring in that heat. So that's why reptiles like snakes and lizards, they have scales. What do you guys think? Anybody have a guess what he's doing with his tongue there? Anybody has a guess?
Doesn't his tongue get really hot?
That would be a good guess. He's actually smelling. Do you guys smell with your tongues? When you smell, do you go like this?
Yes.
Do you? Well, you might be part reptile. But what he's doing is actually smelling the air. He sticks out that tongue, and actually the forks have little sacs on the end of them that collect air particles. That's pieces of the air. Then he brings them back in the mouth and basically tastes them in order to smell. Isn't that cool? Yeah, so he's smelling all of us right now. There's lots of new surroundings and excitement going on. So that tongue's going a mile a minute trying to smell what's going on. The savanna monitors, like I said, they normally live in the desert and savanna of Africa. Is it cold or hot in Africa? It's hot. So that is why they are able to survive well there, because I said they are hot-blooded or cold-blooded? Cold-blooded. There you go. The sun is always beating down on them there. And their scales, they actually, look at, you see these pieces of his body where the scales are kind of coming up? What do you think is happening there?
He's shedding his skin.
He's shedding his skin. He's shedding his skin. So they, the savanna monitor will do that every 4 to 6 weeks. They'll shed all of their skin completely. But normally you don't see like a whole shedding like a snake does, where you see a whole entire thing, because they eat the little bits of it as it sheds for good nutrients.
Do you guys shed your skin?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
You're right, you do.
You guys shed your skin in teeny tiny pieces. That's why it's very important to take a shower daytime, nighttime, whenever your parents tell you. Do you know that when your parents are cleaning around the windowsill, a lot of that stuff they're cleaning up off the windowsill, it's not just dust, it's your skin. Okay, so that's why it's very important to take a shower.
Yeah, so shedding your skin is a good way to get the dead skin off and new skin in. Another thing about these guys, I said they eat the dead skin. Do you guys have any guesses about what they actually eat for their diet?
Insects?
Insects. So you'd be right. In the beginning of their life, when they're a lot smaller, they eat a lot of insects. Crickets, spiders, you name it. Snails even. Not that snails are insects, but small things. Invertebrates, which we've talked about before, are what they eat when they're smaller. Then when they grow bigger, they eat something.
Their appetite gets a lot bigger when they get bigger.
So the
As a
bigger
matter of fact,
appetite.
I think they're more of an opportunist, because they will go around and they will steal eggs from nests. They will, if they can catch a snail, they'll eat a snail. But if an animal leaves a carcass behind, they have no problem with peeling off meat and eating it from that carcass.
I always say opportunistic feeder is just a nice way of saying it's an animal that'll eat anything it can.
Does anybody know how big these guys will get?
You had to
Anybody?
guess.
Very big.
Exactly.
That's right. So these guys will get anywhere from 3 to 5 feet.
How tall do you think I am? I'm a little under 5 feet. So a full-grown one could be as long as I am.
And very tough to handle.
Just like me. Oh my God.
Now, these guys in the savannah, they would go around and they would look for something to eat. Let's see if we can't get him to eat something.
So we mentioned the insects, but then we said when they get larger, their appetite gets a little larger. We're going to give this guy a mouse today, which is what you would feed him if you had him in captivity as a pet.
He just started eating mice. Let's see if he'll do it.
See, he's definitely
He says, "You're
smelling
trying to
it.
trick me. This isn't real," he says.
He's never eaten on camera before. The pressure.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to put him away, And when we come back, we're going to bring out one bigger than this because I want you guys to see just how big these guys could get.
Gary, how old's this one?
This one is about a year.
A year. Okay. That'll be good for reference.
It's only a year old.
So come back with My Town TV at the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center, and we're going to talk more monitors.
Welcome to the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center.
Come on, let's go see what's inside. The Highlands Museum and Discovery Center is not only full of tons of history, but it's also a lot of fun.
Here's a sneak peek of Country Music Heritage Hall, which features Highway 23 entertainers and many local bluegrass artists. In the military exhibit located on the mezzanine level at the museum is the proposed replica of the Boyd County Honor Roll Memorial Wall.
Also in the military exhibit is one of the Highlands' most famous artifacts. It is Hitler's bedside phone, and yes, it is real.
Are you looking for the perfect venue for your next event?
Whether you have 50 people or up to 500,
Ashland's largest conference center has you covered. Adults and children of all ages enjoy our Discovery Center located in the lowest level of the Highlands Museum. To the Highlands Museum!
Aye, aye, Captain.
I'm Ranger Rebecca, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more about Heritage Farm Museum and Village in Huntington, West Virginia. So here we are in the Heritage Farm Petting Zoo, and I'm with Thunder. We have all kinds of fun animals for your kids to be able to have an up-close interaction with. We are currently in the General Store Museum, and this is to show you what going to Walmart would have been like back in the 1800s. Our Transportation Museum has everything from some original Model Ts to a lot of things about trains, and 1908 electric truck, and more. It's really fun to come see how progress started with how we go from here to here. So it's really an interesting feel. It throws you back in time. If you haven't been here before, we hope you come out. There's lots of great things to do.
Well, Rebecca, that was interesting, but I tell you what, I got one a little bit bigger than that one. That one was about a year old or so. I got him as a rescue. That's why he's not really used to me messing around with him. He hasn't been with me long enough. But this one here, that one was Diablo. And you can tell with the bad attitude why I call him Diablo. This is Boss.
Boss.
Basically, his name is Boss because anything that goes in his cage disappears real quick. Okay.
So while he's getting Boss out, let's talk a bit about their size. We said 5 feet at max. How long do you think these guys live to get that big?
About maybe 50 years?
50? Actually, it's a lot less than you'd think. Their average lifespan is 10 years, so they grow pretty quickly relative to other reptiles. They have a lot of really harsh environment in the desert. Sometimes it's hard to find food, and sometimes they don't live super long, but in captivity they normally live around 10 years. So how old's this one, Gary?
This one, I would say about 6 or 7 years old.
Awesome. So he is much larger than Diablo, who was only about a year and a half. So let's see if maybe this guy might demonstrate some hunting behavior for you all.
Sit. Okay, here we go.
Maybe he smells it. Which, what do they do to smell? They stick out their tongue. Come on, buddy. Well, who would have thunk that reptiles are camera shy, you know? He's thinking about it. There he goes.
Five, 4, 3, 2,
Oh, yeah. thing about reptiles is that they don't have to eat as often as you and I do. In fact, how often do you feed these guys?
Every 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, so they don't even need 3 meals a day like we have, because they're cold-blooded. So they don't need as much energy from food to be able to keep warm. They get their warmth from UV lights if they're in captivity, or the sun if they're in the wild. So that'll do him for a while.
Now this guy, besides mice, what he eats is a mixture of turkey. Most of the time I'm feeding him turkey with eggs in it. You just throw in the eggs and you scrunch it up with the turkey meat and you plop it down like a scoop of ice cream. And what they'll do is you put the vitamins on there and they'll eat that. Now Boss is a little bit, I mean, he'll sit there for me because he's done this before, unlike the younger one. Now, we talked about these guys getting about 5 feet. When they're 5 feet, they're very hard to handle. So this is not for the basic herpetologist, okay? This is not something you just go to the pet store and say, hey, I'm going to get me a monitor. Make sure you know about these animals before you get them.
I know about the
Then you're
Well,
ready.
there you go, you're ready.
I'm telling you. Go tell Daddy you want a monitor.
You have a question? Are they poisonous? That's a great question. I was actually going to kind of go into that next. So, there's a debate. Scientists are kind of debating about a bunch of different kinds of monitors, whether they have venom glands or not. And the Komodo dragon, they've been going back and forth on this for years. They'll say, oh, they have just bad bacteria in their mouth that affects people when they bite, or, oh, they actually do have venom glands.
I believe from the research I've done that it's bacteria. That bacteria in their mouth builds up so much that, and it becomes so potent when they bite you, the Komodo dragon, that bacteria gets in there quickly and can kill you.
Bacteria are tiny, 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 tiny living things that you cannot see, and they're what make you get sick. Just to explain what bacteria is.
I do not believe, as of yet, they have proven that there are venom glands in these creatures.
No.
Now, this guy here, he has bitten me before. He's a captive, okay? I gently washed the area which he bit me. See, his teeth aren't sharp, okay? Their teeth are more like rounded, so they're more for crushing, not for tearing or ripping. So he wasn't able to get any of his bacteria in me. Now, an animal that has pointed teeth, like the Komodo dragon, they could get their bacteria in there and they could do the body a lot of damage.
You said their teeth aren't sharp, but something on this guy are really sharp. Have you guys noticed that? What is really sharp on him? Razor claws. Why do you think that might be good for him? What does he use those for?
Eating.
Eating? Sure. Also, digging, yeah. So they dig burrows in the ground in the desert, and that's their habitat. Which, what's habitat mean? Their home. So that's what their sharp claws are helpful for them to dig.
Now, if you are to keep one of these as a pet, let's say you grow up and you're like, oh, you're really good with reptiles, you should figure on buying a 4x6 cage, okay? And that's for one this size, okay? So you're going to need a huge cage. It's going to have to be a strong cage because they can rip the cage apart. They're very strong. Also, you want to make sure that the UVB, UVA, you want to make sure that you have the spotlight, which keeps his cage really hot. Remember, he lives in the savannas in Africa. So you got to have really hot spots in the cage. I'd say about 170, okay? And then you got to have cooler spots that are about 75, 80, okay? Make sure the hot spots on one side, cool spots on the other side. Let's change that from 170 to 150. That'd probably be a better temperature. Make sure he gets water, okay? See how he's shedding right now? I purposely kept the water from him so that you can see how much he sheds. They shed a lot as they grow, okay? So just figure on, seeing that shedding and making sure that his cage is moist.
Do you boys and girls have any final questions about reptiles or the monitor? What?
I
Come up here. Come on.
Okay.
You what?
I'll put them in a cage sometimes.
You would put them in a cage sometimes?
Yeah, you could put them in a cage and have them as a pet. That's a, okay,
Once
yes.
you're, a master, which it seems like you already are.
What cage would you recommend?
Well, like Gary said, 4 by 6, which means 4 feet by 6 feet at least. And that they need height to be able to get up and climb. They need a lot of space to be able to move around. The general good rule is that you want the cage to be double their body length so that they could make a whole circle around the thing. Oh, well, we can't endorse a specific brand here or anything, no. But, maybe a tank, like an actual glass tank.
Yeah, you can use those very large dog cages. They're very strong, sturdy. You can use those. Put a log in there which he could climb up to the top on, and if you can't find any big enough, stack them up and cut away the bottom of it so you have a bigger cage. Sometimes you have to get creative when it comes to taking care of these guys because you want their habitat to closely match their natural habitat in the savannas of Africa.
And we're in Kentucky, so that is a challenge.
It's a tough score there. So, did you guys have fun?
Awesome.
All right, so now you know about the Savannah Monitor. You guys are ready to go exploring. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for seeing Discovery's Base Camp 1. Next, I think we are going to have some furry, cute, and cuddly creatures.
Little pocket pets.
Let's see you on the next episode of Discovery's Base Camp 1.
All right.